Hello and welcome, Pokemon fans. There are those who call me Bardbreaker, and it's time for another Pokemon Challenge run. Our last run saw us beating Pokemon Fire Red with moves that only had 25 base power or less. And that was a full party run that saw some interesting moments and obstacles to overcome. This week, let's go back to a single Mon run and ask and answer the question, can I beat Pokemon Emerald using only a SKARMORY? Shout out to the at least 3 people in the comments who have been asking for one. I thought it sounded fun, so we're gonna do it. SKARMORY isn't what you'd normally consider a challenging Pokemon, at least at first glance. It has a base stat total of 465. That puts it in pretty strong company with Pokemon like Absol, Throh and Sawk, and even Magneton. Our massive defense of 140 is nearly in the top 10 for Gen 3, so we're gonna really be good in that regard. Tackle your hearts out early game Pokemon. Beyond that, we have decently passable stats in most other fields, but our special attack and HP are worrisome. But this is Gen 3, so our 2 primary types, Steel and Flying, are both physical, so that'll be good. Where SKARMORY may have a bit of a challenge though is in its moveset. Take a look. We start with Peck and Leer, so at least we have a same type attack bonus move right out of the gate, and we learn Swift early too, but we don't have a lot of type coverage to speak of. Normal, Flying, and Steel aren't going to be super effective against much, so we're not going to have huge advantages throughout the run. We do resist a lot and are only weak to Fire and Electric, so that's a plus. But our TM moveset doesn't open up a lot of doors either. It's pretty much just the standard array of moves that virtually everything else can learn, though at least we get Thief, I guess? I don't know, Dark is special and our special attack sucks, so I doubt that's going to be useful at all. Yeah, our moveset's concerning, but we'll manage. As always though, this is the point where I remind you guys that I write the script as I go with the challenge, so at this point I haven't even started playing yet. Everyone take your guesses down below to please the almighty algorithm, God of the YouTube algorithm, and let me know if you think I can do it or not. I'm going to say that we can at least become the champion and beat the core of the game if by no other means than simply brute forcing things as we go. With all that said and done though, it's time for a quick refresher of our challenge rules. In battle, I can only use SKARMORY. I'll need other Pokemon for stuff like HMs, but I won't be allowed to use those Pokemon in battle. I will also be restricting myself from using any items in battle. Held items and items outside of battle will be allowed though. And finally, as always, I won't use any cheats, glitches, or exploits aside from replacing our starter with SKARMORY. So let's do it. So we start our run off by extricating ourselves from the back of the Neglectful Mother's Moving Company, again, making a quick jaunt upstairs to set our clocks, damn spring forward stealing my hour of sleep, and then snooping around the neighbor's house looking for evidence of May's crush, which I've narrowed down to either Logan Lerman or Tom Holland. We'll go with Tom Holland, but that's just me. From there we make a trip outside and find the local wildlife expert being attacked by the local wildlife, and we move to rescue him. I've used the Universal Pokemon Randomizer to replace Trico with SKARMORY so we can do the whole run with it. This will ensure our rival takes Torchic and will have the hardest type for us to fight against. Yes, I know it becomes Combuskin later and gets the fighting type, but fire melts metal equals bad. After saving the local expert, we're rewarded with a quest to collect tiny animals in our pockets, and away we go. Before we can do though, we go ahead and get our SKARMORY nicknamed. We're female, so I nickname her Steely Sam, in reference to the band Steely Dan. And because I couldn't think of anything and I can't spend all day trying to think of a better one. We find our first challenge north of town against our rival May. Fortunately for us, her Torchic doesn't know any fire moves yet, and it's a pretty simple match aided by our happenstance of a critical hit to nearly immediately win the fight. Once we set out upon our adventure, we make our way into Petalburg City where we have our first real existential crisis of the day. Stop signs are in the shape of an octagon. Octopuses also have oct in their name. What if stop signs are all an elaborate behavioral control conspiracy orchestrated by some highly intelligent underwater sea creatures? This can't be allowed to continue. We can't be subservient to ocean life any longer. Just because they got to Arthur Curry doesn't mean they'll get to me. I won't stand for an octo uprising. Be right back, I have to go dig a moat of sand around my apartment. Okay then, well back to the task at hand. After some obligatory blah blahs in town, we make our way into the woods and we have our first encounter with the first of 2 team evils for this run. Just like with May, our pet gets us past the little doggy and we make our way to Rustboro City. I decide to make a crack at the rock gym just to see where we stand, and though we were able to whittle down all of her trainers' team, we don't really have any luck against her team. In fact, it's quite clear that we just aren't going to do it against her team. We don't even get past the first Geodude, let alone the other ones. We're going to need to level up a bit here. I try again at level 15 after having learned Swift, and it's doing slightly more damage than Peck, but these Geodudes know Defense Curl to nullify our Leers, and even with a load of sand attacks in their face, the Geodudes will eventually hit us enough to end it. So we have no choice but to level up even higher. At level 20, it takes a couple of tries, but we manage to get just lucky enough to get our way. I don't really have a lot of options, but I do formulate a bit of a strategy. I have 15 sand attacks and 3 Pokemon to face, so I spend 5 sand attacks on each one, and from there just work on hitting them down with Swift and Peck. I could use Leer, but we're just going to get into a back and forth with Defense Curls and Harden, which lessen our efforts. So it's better to just go for direct attacks against her rock types. Eventually we get lucky enough with critical hits to bring her team down and secure our first victory against the gym leader and our first badge. From there we have to play Police Simulator as we take back the Devon goods from Team Evil, as well as a bird they've kidnapped. Or birdnapped, I guess you will. and after being sent on another round of package delivery simulator, we head back to Petalburg. Well, at least we do once we get something for Cut, so we go catch up a Slack-Off, nickname it Snipticus the 47th, long may she cut, and head back to Petalburg where we enjoy a rousing sea shanty with Mr. Briny. We take a ride on Mr. Briny's boat down to Dewford Town where the second gym of this run is located. It's a fighting gym, so perhaps to no one's surprise, we have the advantage here. While our steel typing does mean fighting will be neutral against us instead of not very effective, we have the type advantage with our moveset, and we quickly sweep over Brawly with our peck and only take some marginal damage in the process. From here, we have to complete Package Delivery Simulator, but we'll need Flash to do it, so I stop and catch up an Abra to do so, nickname it Flashelius the 47th, long may he shine, and then make our way through the cave. While we're here, I decide to stop and catch an Aeron for Strength later, nicknaming it Bicepticus the 47th, long may she lift, and proceed to Steven where we deliver the letter with no postal carrier would dare go. Now that we've done that, we can proceed to Slateport City. Once we make it to Slateport, we proceed to the museum where we complete Package Delivery Simulator and deliver the plot device to the plot NPC, and now we can proceed north onto much bigger and better things. Bigger and better things apparently in this case means May, as we're stopped by her on our way north. But she's sorely overestimated her chances here as we bring down her entire team with some pecks and secure our next mandatory win. Speaking of mandatory wins, we have to win this fight against the gym leader Watson, and he's an electric gym leader, one of our two weaknesses, and while we can swift pass his Voltorb and Electrike easy enough, his Manectric poses a real obstacle with Shockwave. It's a move that can never miss, so even if I throw all of my pocket sand in his face, it's not going to stop him from electrocuting us. To say nothing about the Steel-type Magneton that's coming next. We're going to have to level up again. Watson is famous for derailing some solo runs, and it looks like he strikes again. Grinding in this area is famously awful. There's not a lot of options here. It's a real shame we need to beat him in order to use the ability Rock Smash outside of battle, but it is what it is and this'll have to do. I try again at level 35, and even though we make it to the Magneton once, we just don't stand a chance. And there's not a lot I can do. If we had a ground type hidden power, that would be awesome, but even if we do end up with that type, and I don't know what it is yet, we can't get hidden power until we beat him, so leveling it is. Trying again at level 40, we're getting close and are nearly there. We can reliably get to the Magneton at this point, but we just can't get where we need to be. It's a shame that overleveling is the only real solution here, but unfortunately I don't see any other options. But as close as we are, maybe just a bit more and we'll be able to do it. A few more attempts and some more grinding later, we get back to level 45 and try him again, and he's almost comically easy this time. We one-shot swift his Voltorb and Electrike and bring the Manectric down without a fight, though our Cherry Berry does get consumed, and the final Magneton, though paralyzing us, doesn't amount to much resistance. He goes down with 3 or so swifts, and despite Watson being super hard before now, was fantastically easy this time. With that, we secure another badge, and we can now use Rock Smash to proceed on our way north. After a bit of sightseeing, we end up circling our way back to Slateport, where we can now buy the TM for hidden power. Our first encounter is with an Electrike, and we get a not very effective result, which instantly narrows down our possible typing to Flying, Steel, and Electric. Our next super effective result on Tentacool confirms that our hidden power type is Electric, which may come in handy, but it is special in this gen, and I'm not sure how well that'll do for us given that our special attack is so low. From there, our next task is to go beat Maxie, and despite the Intimidate from Mighty Ina, we're still able to overcome his team with some air cutters, thanks in large part to us being so overleveled. Again, I do hate overleveling, but sometimes when you get stonewalled like we did with Watson, there's nothing else you could have done. In any event, after a quick jaunt down the mountain, we make our way to Lava Ridge Town, and it's time for one of what I foresee to be one of the more challenging gyms, Flannery and the Fire Gym. But, despite my concerns, we take exactly 7 points of damage and make an easy dispatch of her with Air Cutter. I don't understand why neither Camerupt nor Torkoal went for fire moves, but hey, I'll take it, a win's a win. Again, speaking of wins, we make our way back to Petalburg City to take on our absent father at the normal gym. But this fight is hardly of note either. We lunge right into the fight against our father, and we honestly just roll over his team with Air Cutter. We do take a big knockback from a counterattack, but we hang in the fight long enough for the win. Honestly, we were saved by his Truant ability, which keeps him from attacking every other turn. If he didn't have that and could attack every turn, we would have absolutely lost. In any case, like before, another win's another win. Speaking of Slacking's Truant ability, I realize now I never went over what Steely Sam's information looks like, so let's take a look at that. Our ability is Keen Eye, which keeps us from having reduced accuracy, so take that, Pocket Sand, while our Quirky Nature presents us with neutral stat gains. Well, alright then. The win against our dad also results us in getting surf, so that's something at least. But before we can surf, we need to go fish, so we take up our rod and we go fish for a Goldeen. We nickname it Aquades the 47th, long may he swim, and can proceed on. Along the way, we have our next encounter with one of the team's evil at the Weather Institute, but it's another comically easy victory over more filler yet again. We get a cast form for our efforts, immediately shove it in the box, never to speak of it again, and proceed on to the next encounter, which is another rival fight against May. However, before we do, I stop and catch a Tropius for Fly later, nicknaming it Flapsity the 47th, long may she fly, and then proceed on our fight against May, which is another quick Air Cutter sweep. After that, we move on to 4 Tree City. We get the Devon Scope from Steven and can access the Flying Gym and Winona the Gym Leader. Fortunately for us, while the opponent's levels are starting to catch up with us, they haven't quite hit us just yet, so we still have a good bit of levelage up on her team. We start out with air cutters through most of her team, though her own SKARMORY provides a bit of an obstacle. Not because it can really damage us at all, but because even with the level gap, it's still startlingly resilient to our own attacks. I do manage to get her to milk 2 hyper potions on it, which is nice, but it is annoying as well because it prolongs the fight. Once we bring it down though, the Altaria is no obstacle for us, as we bring it down quickly and secure yet another badge for the journey. Just 2 more to go. From here, we make our way to Lily Cove City, where we have our final fight against our rival May, but like up to this point, she's still no trouble, so a quick few air cutters bring her down and secure the win to put her behind us and allow us to move forward. At this point, the game proceeds into a lot of the team's evil filler bullshit that I really dislike in these games. We make our way to Maxi, the team red leader, who is still a pushover who we easily defeat. Though because he grabbed the wrong colored rock from the gift shop, one of the box legendaries gets pissy and leaves the cave. I know, it really sounds dumb when you explain it that way, right? From there, we go clear out the Team Aqua hideout, which isn't even the final time to deal with them, so after that useless detour, we make our way to Moss Deep City, and it's time for the 7th gym fight against Tate and Liza, the duo in charge of the Psychic Gym. They're a mandatory double battle, so the best thing I can do here is go fish up a Magikarp for the fight. It will draw an attack away from SKARMORY, but it won't be able to attack back, so it's the best we can do. Otherwise, your run would end here. Xatu and Claydol are out first, and our run doesn't start out particularly well. Though Air Cutter and Swift can both hit both Pokemon at the same time, I just start missing the Claydol over and over and over again. Fortunately, the Claydol can't do much to us, and the Xatu likes to just sit there like a lump on a log, so I finally have a lot of time to hit the Claydol and bring it down with Steel Wing instead. From there, we aren't in a ton of danger. It's imperative we don't miss the Soul Rock though, as it will likely one-shot us with a Sunny Day boosted Flamethrower, but we land our super effective Steel Wing to one-shot it. Lunatone comes out and goes down in much the same fashion. Our health is starting to look pretty sus though, but fortunately we bring the Xatu down with a Steel Wing, and that yields us dividends as we bring it down to secure the 7th badge. We're not done on this damn island though. We have to clear out the Astronomy Lab for more Team Evil. Fortunately though, it's a double battle, this time with Steven. We actually wind up spending more time here than we did in the gym. We really just keep using Air Cutter over and over, and it will hit both opposing Pokemon at the same time. We're really pretty lucky here, as both Camerups could almost certainly have hit us with any fire-based moves, but they don't. Steven actually takes more damage than we do, as he winds up burning through 2 of his Pokemon. Eventually we wind up teamed up with his own SKARMORY before finally clearing out Team Evil and securing another win. More filler though, as from there it's time for yet another Team Evil encounter as Archie arrives and we rendezvous with Kyogre. He's really not an obstacle at this point either, and we just Steel Wing his entire team without any real issues. But again, because he's also colorblind, he too grabbed the wrong souvenir gemstone and pissed off another legendary that we'll have to sort out now. And sort it out we do, as we go wake up the sleepy ass of Dojo and tell him there's a Shengon Wu that needs recovering, so he hightails it out to Sootopolis, where a showdown trio takes place between the 3 legendaries. Dojo, of course, wins with ease, and now that we get the world set straight, we can proceed on to the final gym battle with Juan, the water gym leader. Most of his team isn't really an obstacle though. Water does resist steel, so we have to resort to Air Cutter. Unfortunately, I didn't heal at the Pokemon Center, so my power points are lower than they should be for the fight, and that ultimately comes back to bite me in the ass against the Kingdra. The Kingdra knows rest, so we have to just whittle it down, but no matter how close we get to knocking it out, it just turns around and heals back up. Ultimately, I start running out of power points, and despite my best efforts to sand attack his accuracy into oblivion, he lands enough hits to bring me down, and we have to try this again. After several more attempts and healing up at the Pokemon Center this time, I finally get a run where we get back to the Kingdra and land the critical hit that we need to end the fight without too many rest shenanigans getting in our way. That'll secure us the final win and the final badge that we need to finally progress through the Elite Four. Unfortunately though, progress is short-lived, as on our way through Victory Road to the Elite Four, we're hit hard back into reality by Wally, the little crippled boy from earlier in the game that we've basically ignored all run. I can deal with his Altaria well enough, but his Magneton is absolutely wrecking our shit with his Thunderbolt. We can only survive a couple, we don't have anything good to do damage to it, and even with sand attacks, we don't have a lot of luck. There's really not a lot of options here either. Time for another round of power leveling. A few more levels and we reach level 70 and we try Wally once again. This time after a quick smack of the Altaria, he swaps into Magneton, but this time we're ready for this and our Swift attack does enough damage to bring it down. From there, the rest of his team doesn't stand any real chance at defeating us, and we're quickly able to defeat the rest of Wally's team this time without incident. Afterward, we get ourselves through Victory Road and it's time for the Elite Four. Alright, we get up to the Elite Four and it's time for the opening battle against Sydney the Dark Trainer, and right out of the gate we get slapped with an Intimidate from the Mighty Ina, which chunks our attack. Ultimately though, we just have to press on and power through it. Our moveset isn't all that bad from a brute force perspective. We could make a few tweaks to it, but I'm okay with where it is right now. And really, once we get past this Mighty Ina and the Crawdaunt, we really aren't looking too bad at that point. Sydney has a couple of part grass types on his team with a Nuzlocke and a Cacturn, so once we see the green grass, it's full speed ahead with Air Cutter and Sydney is quickly dispatched. Ghost Trainer Phoebe is up next, and unfortunately we run into a wall, an ironic statement since it's a ghost Pokemon which shouldn't be solid at all. It throws up Protect, which is fine, we can just burn a Sand Attack, but we then miss our Steel Wing and it gets off a Curse, which will inflict 1/4 of our HP as damage each turn. We've got no option but to reset at that point, we can't finish the fight quick enough. 3 attempts later, and I finally get a run where the Dusclops decides instead of going for Curse, it wants to pussyfoot around with Protect some more, which allows us the window of opportunity we need to clear it out. We aren't out of the woods yet though, her Banette knows Thunderbolt, but a nice critical hit dispatches it. Another Banette goes down fast enough, and then another Dusclops is out, this one with Ice Beam. We Steel Wing it down before Sableye is out to close out her loss to a couple of Air Cutters, and there's another rung up the ladder of the Elite Four. Ice Trainer Glacia is up next, and it's fortunate that Ice is weak to Steel as we're able to make decently quick work of her team, though it is somewhat annoying to be in Hail all the time. The one thing I had to look up is that in Gen 3, Hail doesn't make Blizzard 100% accurate. This Celio misses 2 consecutive Blizzards in a Hail. Turns out that it's not until Gen 4 when that takes effect. Ultimately, we make our way to her Blubby, but unfortunately, despite some Pocket Sand for safety, she lands a Surf and an Ice Beam to bring us down in our Hail weakened state. Let's try again. Ultimately, in our very next attempt, we have a lot more luck and make it back to Wall Rain lickety-split. We again go for Pocket Sand for defense, and this time he misses twice, which allows us to hit him hard and secure the win almost as quickly as it took for us to think we'd have to fight them again. Next up is Dragon Master Drake, and this one is not going well for us. After a bit of Rock Tomb shenanigans with the Shelgon, we're face to face with Flygon, which knows Flamethrower, and that's going to be a problem. Normally Shelgon isn't too much of an issue, but if it hits us with Rock Tomb even once, we're going to have an issue dealing with Flygon and Salamence as Rock Tomb lowers our speed and leaves us susceptible to Flamethrower. We can try for Sand Attacks for safety, but ultimately it just seems like they hit their stuff anyway. Way more than I think they should, but we'll deal. At this point I decide it's just time to max out my max level. My moveset can't really get much better. I could swap off Air Cutter for something a bit stronger, but I like the enhanced crit chance. I could also swap in a stronger normal move over Swift, but again, not by much difference. And with our hidden power type being electric, we're pretty much stuck here. I do have Double Team, which would be an improvement over Sand Attack, but let's see if we can get away without it. Even at level 100, it takes several attempts at Drake before we start to make some progress, and that's only because we get the benefit of some timely critical hits. And honestly, I'm just going to show you here, I have it in the script that says insert battle. I apparently forgot to write down what happened, and I do not want to go back and try to find that footage right now. My toothache is really acting up and I need to get this recorded. So, suffice to say, we use Air Cutter and Steel Wing and we're able to knock Drake out decently enough. After many attempts, we finally got back there at the level we needed. Okay though, with as much prepping and grinding as we needed for Drake, the champion Wallace is an absolute cakewalk. Wailorder's out first and we hit it hard with Air Cutter and it gets off a weak Water Sport before we're able to bring it down. Tentacruel nearly goes down to one of the Air Cutters, but it survives, gets healed, and goes down in 2 Swifts. Ludicolo being part grass is an easy one-shot with Air Cutter, and out comes Wishcast, which survives one, sets up Amnesia, and goes down to another. Gyarados chunks our attack with Intimidate, but doesn't pose much of a challenge, and it goes down quick enough. Just like that, we're up against Milotic, but it's also a quick hit with Air Cutter to finish off and win us the run. Well, that was fun. The credits roll, we get SKARMORY into the Hall of Fame, and the run is over. But this is Emerald, and since we're already at max level, let's go ahead and at least try the post-game fight against Steven Stone, though I don't have high hopes. And yeah, going into the fight, we're shown the door pretty quickly. We can't do a lot to the SKARMORY, and I feel like we can do even less to the rest of his team. We just don't stand a chance. His team is too high level, and we don't have enough type coverage. So it's time to cheese this thing up. Double Team it is. You can hate me for it down in the comments. In fact, go ahead if you do. It boosts engagement. But this is how it's going to be if we want to have any hopes of beating him with our super limited move pool. And in fact, even with 6 Double Teams, our victory is by no means assured. We have to make numerous runs at this, even though the strategy is pretty much the same every time. Set up 6 Double Teams on the SKARMORY, and from there use Steel Wing and Air Cutter to plow down his team. We actually get lucky when we get to the Cradily and Armaldo, as our Steel Wing does big damage to them, but Claydol can put up a Reflect leading up to them, which really hampers our power. Last out, of course, is his famous Metagross, and it's a beast. We have nothing to hit it for super effective damage, so we just have to stand there chipping away at it as best I can. I've equipped a Citrus Berry to heal back up 30 HP to try and keep me a little more in the fight, but you can see just how many misses are necessary in order to stay in the fight. If more of his Psychics would have hit, he'd have easily won the fight before we did. Miraculously though, as we bring it down low and I started hoping for an Air Cutter crit, Steven doesn't heal it. I would have thought he would have had more full restore set aside just for it, but nope, he used them up earlier. That's nice. We land our Steel Wings and win the game. And there we go, we've beaten Steven Stone and fully beaten Emerald with just a SKARMORY, and that was kind of surprising. With as beastly as our stats look going into this, you would have thought it would have been pretty easy, but there were really challenging parts, especially running up against any of our weaknesses like fire and electric moves. Steven Stone was also just too powerful to deal with without using the cheesy move of Double Team. I prefer not to, of course, but sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do. SKARMORY just does not have a good move pool, at least not in Gen 3. Maybe it gets better in later games, I don't know. But that's the run, folks, I hope you enjoyed. If you did, be sure to leave a like and let me know down in the comments and over in the Bardbreaker Discord server at the link in the doobly-doo. I don't know what my next run is going to be, but I'm looking ahead to my 50th run for something interesting, hopefully, so be sure to stay tuned for more. In any case, guys, thanks for watching, and go catch 'em all.